Hi, I'm Jane King, and this is New to the Street in person back here at the NASDAQ market site in New York City. The show is all about public, private, and blockchain companies, how the CEOs, the founders, and the innovators bringing you lots of opportunities to consider. Here we go. Zap Electric Vehicles is run by a team of experts from the mobility industry on a mission to redefine the electric two-wheeler segment. Now, Zap's debut product, the i300, is an urban electric high-performance two-wheeler capable of traditional motorcycle levels of performance in a step-through format, making them easier to use and more fun to ride. And customers ordering the i300 will have their bikes conveniently delivered to their home or office by authorized zappers who will provide at-home inspection, service, and support throughout the vehicle ownership life cycle. And with me is Jeremy North, the president of Zap. Great to have you here. And I know there have been some key milestones that Zap has reached recently. So can you tell us more about that and why Zap was launched?
Sure. Morning, Jane. Thanks very much for having the show. Yeah, we just actually announced homologation, so type approval in Thailand, which is obviously a significant milestone. But going back to the start, I mean, I've been with Zap since the start. I've known the founder, Swin Chatsuam, actually for more years than I care to remember, close to 40 years. The things that really drew me to the concept were three or four things, one of which is the environmental benefits. I've had a background the last 15, 20 years of working in new energy and sustainability. And so obviously the benefits from personal urban mobility going electric seemed to be a good place to start. The second was personalization. At the time that we started this, I was also the chief executive of an automotive software business, focusing on the use of AI in personalization for drivers and passengers of four-wheel transport. That business was recently sold to Stellantis. The third element, I guess, was that we wanted to be very customer-centric. Amazon has really blazed the trail over the last 20 years on this. And I think the automotive sector has rather got stuck in the dealership model. And we decided that was really holding the industry back. So we wanted to go to a new and more premium service customer model. And finally, on a more sort of businessy element, we wanted to be very capital efficient. So we have a capital light model, and that's been very important in the creation of the business as well. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, I think we had a design team that was taking an entirely fresh eyes look to the design of the modern two-wheeler. This is reflected by the fact we got an almost incredible 9 design awards in the time we've been going. The bike was built specifically for electrification, so it wasn't an existing model which was retrofitted with an electric motor and batteries. And we've also managed to create a battery solution that removes all reliance on dedicated charging infrastructure.
Now, speaking of Asia, you mentioned Thailand and the new regulatory approval for the bikes there. So where does Zap go from here?
Okay, that's right. So we've now completed homologation, not a word that's easy to say quickly. The bike is certified through the Department of Land Transport in Thailand. So we brought forward our commercial launch in that country, which is the 5th largest in the world for motorbike ownership, which is probably not something that many of the listeners to this podcast, particularly in the US, will be aware of. We also completed our first sales in the UK, and we'll continue the rollout on a single vehicle basis in Europe, while working towards type approval there. But we plan to have a significant presence globally. The world's largest market outside of China is India, and we've signed an MOU with an established vehicle manufacturer there. And after China, the next largest markets are Indonesia and Vietnam. And these two countries are in the next stages of our roadmap. So if you take these 4 markets, Thailand, India, Indonesia, and Vietnam together, that represents nearly 50% of the global market. And if you remember earlier, I said that the global market is about 115 billion US dollars last year. So this is a substantial number. i300 is a high-performance lifestyle product. It's got a distinctive design, which allows personalization to an unheard of degree. So you can personalize the seat, you can personalize the fenders, and the wheels, the tires. This is not something that's been easy to do up until this point in a two-wheel format. We're offering a premium direct-to-customer service model. So we believe that will be attractive. It'll take the dealer out of the equation. It'll make a more direct relationship with the customer for the company, which will be good both ways. And finally, a much more convenient and modern battery solution.
Okay, Jeremy, thank you so much. So interesting to get an update on Zap. I appreciate your time today.
Lovely talking to you. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
There are over 83 million dogs and 50 million cats in the U.S. Up to 80% of senior cats and dogs can suffer from osteoarthritis. Spring is helping treat them and is now available in all 50 states and over 800 veterinarian clinics. Learn more at newtothestreet.com. Pet Vivo, a publicly traded company, ticker symbol PETV.
Curex Pharmaceuticals is a publicly held clinical stage biopharmaceutical company developing a new class of antibiotics for infections caused by bacteria listed as priority pathogens by the World Health Organization, the CDC, and also the FDA. And with me is CEO David Lucci. Great to have you back here. And it's been a few months since we talked, so bring me up to date on where the clinical trials are going and what's been happening at Curex.
Great to be with you, Jane, and glad to be back at the NASDAQ as always. So where we are today and have been working for the past few months dutifully is on partnerships, grants, M&A activity, financing activity, basically putting together a multi-step approach to financing our phase 3 trials.
And this is for the C. diff.
This is for the C. diff program, and also for the second program, which we'll talk about now, is not just MRSA, now it includes anthrax.
Okay.
So we're going to be putting funding together, resource together for all of that. The primary objective is to get our lead antibiotic going into phase 3 through the phase 3 trials as promptly as we can, to get the drug to market as promptly as we can, while doing it as non-dilutively as we can for our shareholders' benefit.
So when do you think that might, say in a perfect world, that timetable? What would that be?
So I think in 2025, in the first quarter, we'll be starting enrollment in the first phase 3 clinical trial of the two that are required. I think it'll be a couple of years in phase 3. I don't mind the time that takes prior to filing for approval, because in those couple of years, we'll be able to get our second antibiotic candidate, ACX 375, into clinical trials for MRSA with label extension to anthrax. So I think at that point, we will be in a really good position 2 years from now.
So let's talk a little bit more about the anthrax, because that's new since the last time we talked. Is this the same C. diff drug that can also be used for that? Explain that.
Sure. No, it's not the C. diff program, because that's more of a kind of like an internal Band-Aid, they call it. The second program, ACX 375, is for internal systemic infections, and it's that program that we tested at an independent laboratory, University of Florida. One of the world's most famous doctors that does this sort of thing, tested us against anthrax bacteria and found very low concentrations of our medicine are needed in order to kill the anthrax bacteria in a laboratory study setting. But our expert at U of F went one step further. The standard of care for anthrax and what gets stockpiled by the federal government in governments around the world is ciprofloxacin. So our doctor, our medic at University of Florida, tested our medicine against ciprofloxacin-resistant bacteria and found very compelling data. It takes very little of our antibiotic to kill ciprofloxacin-resistant bacteria, meaning the standard of care for anthrax doesn't work. So there's nothing left in the stockpile to use. and that's where we get introduced.
Okay. Any other significant discoveries while you were going through these clinical trials that maybe was a surprise?
Yes, well, that was a surprise, as you say. The second surprise, and this too was presented at the Bled Slovenia conference last week. The second surprise is our world-class Dr. Kevin Gary, microbiome expert, and our medical director, Mike Silverman, they discovered a way to proactively tell while a patient is taking antibiotics for C. difficile infection, they can tell by the end of the third day of treatment in a 10-day treatment regimen if that patient is going to reinfect. And the clinician, if he uses a little test kit that we would develop and provide, could then swap that patient out onto another antibiotic, because the reinfection C. diff market is $4.7 billion a year. And worse than that, 30,000 people die. And those who die from C. diff aren't the mild cases. They're the people that continually reinfect. So you want to stay out of that bucket of continually getting the reinfection, where you're cured and then you reinfect, and so on and so forth. That is where sometimes you wind up in death.
So next year seems like a pivotal year for you. Where do you see Curex in two years, say?
Well, in 2 years, I think we'll be in the clinic with our second drug, that's going to be targeting MRSA and anthrax. Our first drug should be done with its first phase 3, validated statistically significant data with 1 phase 3 left to go. And at that point, I can't tell you how valuable this thing would be. I also think the World Health Organization met last week here in New York, and there is clamor from the regulatory bodies and the scientific community about antimicrobial resistance. And the WHO last week put out a call to arms for every member state to put together an action plan and come back with the action plan to demonstrate how that member state is going to combat antimicrobial resistance by financing and developing new classes of antibiotics to treat antimicrobial resistant bacteria. And lo and behold, I don't know of any phase 3 new class of antibiotics other than ours being developed, at least here in the U.S. And we are a new class. We seem to be well poised. So in terms of when you think about grant funding for antimicrobial resistance, I mean, what leadership would it show if Staten Island would be able to say that we sponsored the first new class of antibiotics to fight antimicrobial resistance, and the first one to be approved in 35 years.
Yeah.
And that's where we could be in the near future.
Okay. Well, I hope you come back in the first quarter, say, next year, and bring us up to date on all these interesting things you have going on.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Jane.
David.
Is your garden struggling to stay hydrated? Meet Waterless Garden, the organic solution that saves water and boosts your garden's health. Packed with humus materials and trillions of beneficial microbes, Waterless Garden improves soil structure and increases water retention. Use less water, get better results, and watch your garden thrive. Waterless Garden. Less water, more life.
Nuburu is leading the transformation to a world of high-speed, high-quality metal machining and processing. Nuburu's groundbreaking blue laser technology has defined a new class of high-power, high-performance blue lasers. And with me is Brian Canale, the Chief Executive Officer, to explain all about these lasers and what they mean for people. So welcome, Brian. And I guess let's start there. What does Nuburu do? Tell me about the company.
Jane, thanks for the time. Appreciate it. Great to be with you. So what we really leverage when we say fundamental physics, we produce the smaller spot size versus infrared lasers, superior brightness, and higher absorbency in these key materials. So gold, we're about 66 times faster and more absorbent. Copper, we're 13 times more absorbent. And silver, we're 17 times more absorbent. So why do I leverage those, or why do I reference those? Those are kind of the key building blocks in what we term to be the electrification wave. So the the EV or e-mobility and EV batteries that go anywhere from trains, automobiles to bikes, scooters, and different things like that. So they're the building blocks for all of those. So in order to avoid transporting all of that wire and all that material, what the blue laser can do, and what we are proposing to do, is a couple of things: is produce power on the moon for any number of different things. So sending electricity between one power source to another power source, as well as data packets between one location to another location. So from that standpoint, you avoid the weight, if you will, of transporting all these raw materials, wire, up to the moon. Obviously you're going to have potential issues with out there in the moon on interference. But again, that is kind of what we're doing. Phase 2 is looking really to kind of build on phase 1, which we demonstrated the technical and commercial feasibility of this technology there. They obviously NASA was good with that. But really, we want to scale up the power and range and performance of that blue laser beaming technology. And again, there's also an element of this, that the single mode laser, which is kind of like our next step from our BL. It's much more precise, much more high powered, and really, can we develop that in with NASA and put that onto the moon? So the last several months, we've been realigning and refocusing our business and operations. We're beginning to see the positive result of these intense efforts. We are seeing the increased orders that we talked a little bit about before. We have seen a sales cycle that can take 12 months or longer. We've realigned our workforce, and we've reduced our debt by 25%. So we are pursuing a wide variety of transactions to again further optimize our balance sheet and get ourselves into good funding relationships that are critical to emerging growth company like Nuburu.
Okay, makes sense. And always hard when you've got a new technology and a new company to get that traction. So it takes longer than you think. So thank you, Brian, so much. Fascinating to hear about lasers and what they're doing and what they can do in the future.
Jane, thanks for the time, and I appreciate the insights.
Thank you.
There are over 83 million dogs and 50 million cats in the U.S. Up to 80% of senior cats and dogs can suffer from osteoarthritis. Spring is helping treat them and is now available in all 50 states and over 800 veterinarian clinics. Learn more at newtothestreet.com. Pet Vivo, a publicly traded company, ticker symbol PETV.
Okay, I finally got in. Okay, here we go. I'm just going to back over here and turn this camera around just a little bit and let y'all see just from a distance. I have not been in here messing with these at all. I have not watered either one of these. I've got one side that planted in regular Twin Eagle dirt and humus soil mixed in. I've got another side that's planted totally in Twin Eagle dirt. Now, I watered those that was planted in Twin Eagle dirt, but it's been a week. It's been a week. So let's take a look at these, see what we got. Okay, this is nothing short of astonishing right here. These are the 4 plants, and they don't look tremendous, but these are the 4 plants in humus soil right here. Take a look at these plants. They've been in there a week. You can see some little dead out there on the end of that one. They've been in here a week. Nothing but humus soil. There's been no water added to it whatsoever. And you can see what these plants look like.
That's the really nice thing about Sustainable Green Team and its products, that they're chemical free. They're sustainable, and the biologics that we use and how we're restoring what has been broken, we're really in the restoration business.
Right.
So you have a healthy soil, you have healthy plants, healthy animals, healthy people. That sets up for a pretty good successful life, to have healthy lifestyle. And really sustainable.
I'm kind of wondering, Tony, and maybe this is a little far-fetched, but I'm kind of wondering if what we're doing might be putting a little smile on God's heart.
I think so.
I think it might be. These guys here are really hurting. I think I could actually just add humus soil to the top of this. And probably what I'll do is we'll see what happens when I come back. These guys are still alive, which I think they will be after we add this water right here. You can see that ground is drinking that water big time.
Turn in next week for part 3. We will have more conversations with Jimmy Houston, America's favorite fisherman. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on these social media platforms. America's favorite fisherman, Jimmy Houston, and the Sustainable Green Team are joining forces to tackle environmental issues like carbon loss, dead soils, and the overuse of fertilizers with Waterless Garden. This partnership is revolutionizing the global fertilizer industry, transforming agriculture and enhancing food security for future generations. SGTM and Jimmy Houston, working together for a sustainable future.
Your data is vulnerable to hackers, with email being the cause of 91% of all cyber attacks. Introducing secure, Swiss-hosted, data-mine-free, private and secure solutions to protect your communications. Secure Mail offers secure and private email communication. Secure Messenger offers private and secure chats. Secure VPN encrypts your internet traffic and protects your digital identity. Regain your privacy today. Visit Secure at secure.com.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to your Secure Privacy and Security segment. I'm Anna Berry with Alain Guy, the CEO of Secure. All right, our weekly hack is an alarming case. A UK man exploited genealogy data to hack into the emails of top executives. How did he gain access to all of the sensitive accounts? And then he manipulated the stock market, causing shockwaves in both business and the tech community. So, Alain, break this down and talk about how this case demonstrates the risks of sharing personal information from a place like a genealogy site, someplace that all of us use, including myself. What precautions can we take so this doesn't happen to us?
Yes, there was a very famous US one that got hacked. I forgot when. We talked about it. We have it on our show. But essentially, when you put your DNA and you go genealogy and things like that, you're basically giving yourself full information, who you are, what you do, sometime a piece of your DNA. And what this guy did, which is kind of a smart in a malicious way, he basically went and hacked the database, which is not hard to do, as we know from episodes when you have passwords, stored in plain text and whatnot. These big tech companies don't really care that much about your privacy. And a lot of these sites use third-party hosting too. So, sometimes they just don't know. So what happened is this person went, filtered all the executives of publicly traded companies, hacked their email. That's also something not hard to do, as we know, unless you have a BEC countermeasure like we do at Secure. And essentially was reading their mail. So if I'm the publicly traded company, we're signing a deal, I don't know, with AT&T in a week. Well, this guy's going to buy my shares. And then when the deal is announced, the share goes up, he makes a profit and sells. It's as simple as that. It's kind of an ingenious, malefic way to do it. This is what we used to call way back a few years ago. I had an episode where I talked about how China is stealing deal data in Canada's data centers because there was a lot of deal in commodities, oil, mining, etc., which Canada is famous for. And the Chinese were hacking all these data centers to find out which company Rio Tinto is buying what, etc. So, yeah, that's pretty intense. And I'm sure he's not the only one doing that. I'm sure a lot of people got the idea too to hack executives to try to see what's the next move in their public company.
Yeah, it sounds like a great plot for a script for Oceans 13, 14, 15. It's unbelievable that happened. So what are some steps that we can take to mitigate that happening from us everyday people as well as business email?
Well, I'm going to be a little bit biased here. You have to use an off-grid system because anything big tech now, it's just compromised on a daily basis. We offer that at Secure with our Secure Send, Secure Reply feature. By the way, the SEC has new regulation that forces public companies to disclose when they have been compromised. So that's also public companies need to look at Secure and maybe adopt our email system at the very least. You can split, you can have only executives use it and everybody else using your Outlook or whatever you use. So I recommend using Secure for many reasons. We have our own infrastructure, our own proprietary code. We host only in Switzerland. We don't data mine or location mine you, and we protect your data and your communication round trip. When you send to a client and when the client replies back to you, even if they don't have Secure, it is protected in our technology. We have the same for Messenger as well. We also offer a VPN, which I would recommend people to install on their phone because it does encrypt your data higher, and our VPN only gives you Swiss IP address from our own infrastructure as opposed to subbing to one of these other cloud companies that we don't know what they do with your data.
Swiss hosted and Swiss secured. So talk about the privacy code that we have for today.
Yes, we offer a 15% discount on all solutions for 5 years. Put promo code privacy, go to secure.com, SEKUR.com, put the code and enjoy. We offer a 7-day free trial, and after that, your credit card gets charged.
It's all about what your privacy is worth, and it has arrived with Secure. So thank you so much for the weekly hack topic. We look forward to covering another one next week.
Thanks everyone for watching.